It's your Locked On Flyers podcast for Tuesday, January 3rd. Your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that honestly cannot believe the Flyers have a 3-game win streak going.
Yeah, they conquered the West.
They did. We will get into that plus so much more on today's show.
Your Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here as always with Russ Cohen, who's on Twitter at Sportsology. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. You can follow the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Flyers. That is where you'll find information on all of our episodes, Flyers news, all that good stuff. You can also email the show at lockedonflyers@gmail.com. We've got a mailbag on tomorrow's show, so get those questions in. We are going to talk Flyers versus Ducks. We're going to talk Sam Ersson. We've got a Phantoms update today, and we'll have Russ's report from the Winter Classic. And get into a little World Juniors. So jam-packed show today. Locked On Flyers is free and available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, wherever you are listening. So subscribe. You'll get all of our episodes here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Plus, we're over on YouTube, so subscribe there as well. Russ, Sam Ersson got his third start in a row. Carter Hart has apparently been cleared to play, but John Tortorella made the decision to put Sam Ersson in net. And he performed spectacularly, I would say. I was so bummed out at the end of the game. I really wanted that shutout for him.
Yeah, they got to go late. Yeah, the whole Carter Hart thing's weird now because it's like, okay, he was on the trip, but why was he on the trip if you weren't going to play him? Like, even if Sam Ersson's playing the best hockey of his career, you probably only should play him 2 out of 3. I mean, now, when do you going to put Carter Hart in? Are you going to let him sit another couple games if Ersson keeps winning? Like, it's in a weird spot now.
It is, and I truly believe that Tortorella intended to play Carter Hart when they left on the trip, and I think he made like a last-minute decision when he saw
Mm-hmm.
Ersson was playing well, especially in that game against LA. I feel like Carter Hart would have been the logical guy to play against the Ducks just to, get him back into it against maybe slightly easier team. But that being said, I just think that John Tortorella said, no, we're going to go with the hot hand here.
Okay. I mean, but at some point, like, you have to get him in there. Like, you can't keep
Yeah,
going with the hot hand.
I agree. I think it's an
Yeah,
interesting choice. I would have
it
put
is.
Carter Hart back in,
Me
but
too.
on the other hand, Sam Ersson stopped all 9 of Trevor Zegras' shots on goal, so
Yep.
I will take it certainly.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, he did look really good. The Ducks are a weird team, though. You could tell they get demoralized early, and um,
They do.
the Flyers, like the good thing about the Flyers is that they do play hard. And honestly, if you play hard against the Ducks and you get a lead, you could see they just lose it. Their defense. We talked about it. I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah.
it's bad. It's really bad.
It was. I was thinking about it, our conversation about the Ducks defense when on 2 of the Flyers goals, they had all the time in the world to have the patience for that perfect shot.
Oh yeah,
Especially like when Kevin Hayes made that play to get it to
yeah. Nobody was
Konecny.
near them.
Nobody was near him. He was like, all right, I'm just going to stick here with the puck until the goalie bites and then I'll pass it off. Like
I
it
know.
was like as if the whole play was in slow motion.
Yeah, it was crazy, and I, the Morgan Frost goal, like you could tell when that went in, that just blew up Gibson's mind. It was like, ugh,
Oh my god.
yeah, like that one
I
just
mean,
killed him.
no slight on Morgan Frost. It was a
No,
great move, but
no, but it was a
um
stoppable puck.
yeah, yeah, it was. It was for sure. But it's still I appreciate it in the sense that Morgan Frost is really playing top hockey for him right
He
now,
is.
and this was just another example of that. That you saw him making moves and carrying the puck himself and taking the shot himself in situations where maybe he wouldn't have earlier in
Hmm.
the season.
Yeah, he's bringing the puck up the ice with confidence. He's got a lot of confidence, and that really does shine through. And now Noah Cates is getting more confidence, and that's good. All of those things are good. Like these are all positives.
Yeah, one of the other things we talked about in the preview for this game was Kevin Hayes kind of getting back on the scoreboard and putting a little bit more into it than he had. That we really wanted more of a three-line option here in terms
Yeah.
of offensive capability. And I think he's not 100% there, but I think he did that to some degree. I think that
Hmm.
he got 2 assists in the game. We just talked about that patience he had on the Konecny goal. And so I think that, while it maybe wasn't his best game ever, it was certainly an improvement over the last several.
It was the best of the trip. It's the best in
Hmm.
probably the last 3 or 4. So yeah, I mean that's what you want to get out of Kevin Hayes. And when they come back from the trip, they're going to start playing some harder teams again, and so that's good. I mean now they have more confidence, and you can see if they're up to the task.
Yeah, and I think we have to give credit to Travis Konecny as
Hmm.
well. I mean, 5 goals, 4 assists in the last 5 games. He's above a point per game for the season, which, considering how November was,
Oh
and
yeah.
like I think that's pretty remarkable that he's gotten himself back to that kind of scoring rate.
Yeah, this is, what he always had the ability to do, but we hadn't seen this in a couple of years. And it's good that we're seeing it now, like, because he, was always capable of it.
Yeah, and I think that he is actually one of the guys that's really leading the way for some of the slightly younger guys in terms of playing with confidence. I think when you
Yes.
see a guy like Travis Konecny, who did struggle last season, coming into his own a little bit more this season, I think that's part of when you look at Owen Tippett, when you look at Morgan Frost,
Hmm.
and what those guys are doing right now, you can say Travis Konecny is providing leadership and a roadmap for them.
Yeah, he's definitely doing a follow the leader thing. I mean, again, like, what has he not done to get a letter? Like, this is the silly part of the John Tortorella era here. You don't want to give a captaincy, fine, but like to have no letters really makes no sense. And I'm really surprised that it's kind of like gone under the radar even this long. Like I think people just got tired of talking about it, but it's really an important thing for a team, and I just don't get it.
Yeah. I think, in terms of the things to work on from this game, I think they probably could work on staying out of the box a little
Yeah.
bit
Oh yeah.
more. They're lucky that they were playing the Ducks, because most teams, when they get 5 power play chances, are gonna
They're
capitalize
gonna
on that.
score, yeah, and the Ducks had a lot of giveaways too. So but you're right, they've got to work on it. Their PK's getting work, and that's fine. But they do have to work on staying out of the box. That's an important thing, especially with some of the games coming up, and just for the future. So I'm sure that was the only real negative in this one.
Yeah, and especially because the PK, while they were successful, on the scoreboard, they did allow more shots on goal than usual, and
Yeah,
we're, lucky to have Sam Ersson there, who made some pretty incredible saves. He wasn't, overwhelmed in this game, but he came up big when he
yeah, he
needed to,
did.
especially on the PK. And the Flyers, we've been talking about how the power kill is on it right now, and it felt weird, but the Flyers got no shots on goal during the penalty kill in this
Yeah,
one.
it's just but it did it. Sometimes the goalie has to be the best penalty killer, and he was. So that's that part works out.
Yeah, and then on the other hand, the Flyers power play, I thought, got more chances than usual. Still not successful, but
No.
I will say they lost every face-off in the first power play opportunity, but they still got 4 shots on goal. So there is some effort there, and they're
Hmm.
retrieving the puck even when they lose the face-off, and I think that's an important thing to consider.
It is. I mean, the face-off loss isn't the end of the world if you can get the puck back. In the end of the day, that's the most important thing. So, will it work like that against a lot of other teams? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think so. But I think, it's a good thing. I think this game allowed them chances to, recover from mistakes and get some confidence
Yeah.
in a way that you need every now and again. And I think you're right that they should be able to take this into the future games. And luckily, with the travel and everything, they have an extra day off to think about it and practice and kind of reset before they start playing games at home.
Yeah, and right now, it's a new year and right and they have a win streak going. So, those things are positive and that's what you want to ride.
Exactly. All right. Well, we are going to head up to Lehigh Valley and get caught up on the first weekend post Christmas break for the Phantoms coming up next.
Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to college bowl season to basketball to soccer, esports, and of course the NHL. We've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love podcasts like ours, you could find those on BetOnline as well. We're the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Make sure you check out Locked On NHL Prospects. It's your daily show covering the next generation of hockey superstars leading up to the NHL draft, plus NHL draft rankings and top prospects comparisons for every team. It's available wherever you get your podcasts. Russ, it was a rough weekend for the Phantoms. And we were talking last week about needing to rack up wins to move up in the standings. And they went 1-for-2, or one win, two losses over the last week. And the win was in a shootout, so they still like gave up a point in that one. So they're back down to seventh place in the division. And, you look at the standings, it's really not far off between third place and eighth place in the division. It's something you can come back from. But because of that, every single point is important. And we really desperately, like we've been saying, need this team to make the playoffs and get some experience for these guys.
Yeah, I think there's singular improvement as a team. They're slipping, and it's just a fact. They're slipping, and they're like we had pointed out before. They don't play that many weekday games, and they just still have not been able to corral it together. They're disappointing, and the fact that they've slipped further down just doesn't sit well with me. I was talking to someone the other day that the Phantoms, even before these outcomes, weren't impressing me as far as how they were playing overall, and they do have a lot of talent there. And so again, do I love what the coaching staff there is doing? No, I do not.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because if you look at Artem Anisimov, who has been a huge part of their scoring recently, he only had 2 assists over the
Hmm.
weekend, no goals, and that is making a huge difference in the win-loss column. I
Yes.
think, part of it is, that level of scoring isn't sustainable for everybody. But at the same time, I think he's missing Ali Lixel as a line mate.
I think that's fair. I mean, Lixel, plays really well, and yeah, he is able to set him up. So I think that's totally fair. Again, you have to have more than a catalyst of him. I mean, they should be getting more goals from their blue line. They should be getting, you can't always depend on the veterans. Some of the younger guys have to start doing it. And there are some young guys that are kind of like stuck in the mud now. And we'll talk about them.
Yeah, it's been a little frustrating. On the good side, Zayde Wisdom finally got his first goal of the season,
But
which, he's struggling.
he's
He's been
struggling
struggling. So
mightily.
hopefully
Yeah.
that helps him moving forward. And I think that Max Willman is helping them a little bit being back
Hmm.
down there. He got the lone goal for the Phantoms on Friday. And so, while he's only one player, I think just having his experience, and he's a really solid AHL level player when he gets sent down. So I think that should be helpful theoretically, but I think that they just have, as a team, a lot of things to focus on here. Obviously, the penalty kill is brutal. They're still
It's
the
tough.
third
It's
worst
terrible.
in
Yeah.
in the AHL, even though they have the fifth best power play in the league. It was not great over this past week, and you know especially in the game on Saturday, they were 1 for 4. That would have made a huge difference just to get
Hmm.
one more power play goal because, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, man, those games are just awful. Phantoms started out really well in that one, and just like the Penguins took over, and there just really wasn't any fight to get back
Yeah.
into it.
I mean, just as an example, you get back to Wisdom when he was playing in the AHL because of the pandemic. Things were going great, but I did point out to people that the goaltending was very weak that year in
Right.
the AHL, and so like people got super excited about Zayde Wisdom. But right now, I just feel like he has leveled off a bit. I do hope what you said is true, but he's not the only one, though. There's other prospects that have sort of leveled off there right now.
Yeah, I wanna talk about Tyson Foerster, especially. He is the biggest concern for me right now. He's
Yeah.
definitely in a slump. No goals since December 10th. His last point was an assist on December 16th. The Phantoms got into a shootout in the Wednesday game. He missed the shot opportunity. I mean, the Phantoms won the game, and you're not gonna hit every shootout goal, but I just think that would have been a good chance for him to show
Hmm.
what he can do moves wise. And I'm a little worried about him at this point.
Yeah, I am because he projects and should project to be one of the best players on that team, Anisimov aside. Um, and right now he's not.
Yeah, it's something where I don't know if I expect him to, take over the AHL and be an elite player there, but I expect more consistency from him. And I think that's what we're looking for here, is that you're going to be a key contributor to every game. You're going to put the team in a position to win, and you're going to play consistently well. Like
I'm
that's
looking. I'm looking for more than that, to be honest. Because if he's ever going to, get a leg up in the NHL, right now, what he's doing in the AHL isn't going to get a sniff with this coach. Like it's not.
Oh, for sure, and that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying, all of those things need to improve. He's not
Yeah.
doing any of those things
No.
that I said, like, does he need to be a top 10 scorer in the AHL? No, but he has to be doing better and doing it consistently,
He's got to
to
lead
get
his
a look.
team or be the. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's, that's where you start. And yeah, even the goal total, it's not good. He's got to be a goal scorer, and he's not scoring enough goals.
Yeah, and, I talked about, Ali Lixel getting the call up, and so Tyson Foerster actually slotted in on that line with Anisimov, and you would expect that chemistry to work, right?
Hmm.
Especially, when Kiefer Bellows is up on that line. I mean, that's a borderline line right there, like an NHL, AHL borderline combo, and, it just wasn't quite as successful as you would have hoped.
Right. And that's the worrisome part for me. Like it's like, listen, we're at a point in the year now. You're at the 30 game mark. This is where you've got to start showing. Because again, if he doesn't, he's not getting a call up this year. And then next year,
No.
he'll be 21, and then you're going to start to think, all right, when's it going to kick in for Tyson Foerster? Because there was talk this year, well, maybe he'll make the team, sometime this season, but so far we don't see it.
So hopefully it's a new year, new you situation
Right.
for Tyson Foerster, but it's definitely something to stay focused on with Lehigh Valley. I want to talk about Adam Yinning again because I think, he has definitely continued to be a bright spot. I think he's playing well defensively. He had 3 assists on Wednesday, and like we've been saying, he's picking his moments and getting involved in
Yeah.
the play offensively. And I think he is continuing to build confidence there. And so I think that he is progressing in a really positive way.
Yeah, I mean, if he continues on like this, he might get an NHL sniff at the end of the season, which is more than we thought. Only because like it's his first year, and we thought, all right, he'll play this full AHL season. But there might be a point where you do want to reward him.
Elliot Denoyer is the team leader in points now, 12 goals, 6 assists. So that's 18 points in 30 games played. And I know with the AHL, call-ups happen and injuries happen. And so, looking at points per game isn't always the best metric. But I think like when your top scorer is well below a point per game, like that's of concern. And I'm not saying this is Elliot Denoyer's problem per se, and is a detriment to his development specifically. I'm just saying overall, looking at the Phantoms, they need like more guys with more points than that on the board.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you don't, and 12 goals is pretty good for him, but if you don't have overwhelming numbers, John Tortorella is going to pick Max Willman over you. And Max Willman doesn't do anything at the NHL level. He just doesn't make any mistakes. But if you as a player continue to lose out on call-ups because of that, then that tells you your offense has to be a lot better, because, otherwise the coach is going to go with the safest guy. And I'm not saying that's always the right thing, but that's just what he's doing so far.
Yeah, I think so too. And, Saturday's game aside, where Taylor Gauthier was in net for his first AHL game ever and just was lights out. I mean, sometimes you just run into a hot goaltender like that. So, give him a little bit of slack, but not too much here, because every point counts. And hopefully they'll be able to improve on that this week. It's a 2-game week. They're at Rochester and at the Marlies on Saturday. And
the Marlies are a buzzsaw. Like, this is,
I know,
again, this is one where I am going to look at that game and see where they're at. And if they get trounced by the Marlies, then I'm going to start saying that there's bigger problems happening.
Yeah. All right, we will report on that next week when we check in on the Phantoms. Coming up next, we are going to get Russ's report from the Winter Classic, and we'll check in on World Juniors. Russ, you are still clearly in Boston.
I am, and I don't make my bed. I just don't.
I wasn't going to say anything.
You can. It's okay.
For the YouTube listeners, watchers, Russ has a messy hotel room behind him right now.
I do. The rest isn't messy, but you know what? I'm away. I'm not doing it.
All right. So I would say at first I thought it was a sort of a boring Winter Classic in terms of the game, but then Boston kind of turned it around at the very end and made a game of it.
Yeah, this is a whole thing with Boston, the way they are this year. They're very resilient. You can never count them out. And I'm going to tell you, everybody in that ballpark knew the minute Boston tied up that game that the Penguins were done, that they were going to win. And, so like some people were like, well, Boston got kind of lucky. And I'm like, it's not lucky when you haven't lost a game at home this year in regulation. Like, it's just they're 19-0-3, and technically Fenway is a home game. So that's just extraordinary. But, the crowd was great. The event was great. The Boston Pops retweeted me yesterday because I gave them some props a couple of days ago. That was nice because they were terrific. That was nice.
They really were.
Yeah.
I was like, I posted as well. I'm like, I think more sporting events need full orchestras.
Yeah. I loved the way it kind of worked. And so I was a big fan of it. The weather turned out to be great. The ice turned out to be great. I was a little worried at the beginning because there was like a little puddle in the Penguins net, but as soon as the sun moved off the rink quickly. It never became a problem again. So all of that worked out well, and people had fun. Again, there's always going to be the Winter Classic haters. Well, who cares? There's too many of them. Blah blah blah. Listen, it was a full crowd. They were printing money. People had fun. It is a party atmosphere, and that is the key to the Winter Classic. It's a party atmosphere.
Yeah, I thought it was funny just from a watching it on TV perspective when you have those teams that have the same colors.
Yeah,
You can't distinguish the fans in the crowd, which in some ways was kind of cool, right? It just looked
right.
like a unified crowd, but clearly there were fans from both teams there. But everybody looked like they were having a good time.
I didn't hear any complaining from the fans. I mean, in the media room, perhaps, and that's the key. The fans are the ones that these games are catered to them, and the players know it. But the players always have a great time, and I think that's what gets overlooked when everybody sort of like complains about the Winter Classic. They forget the family atmosphere, the family skates, how important it is. I did an article on sportsology.com about Evgeny Malkin with his son, talking about how he grew up, and I've never heard him, get that introspective before. And those are the kinds of things you can get from these games, from these players, and it really is a different feel for them. And at this point of the season, it's a good break for them too, so that's where, I think you get some really nice moments from these games.
Yeah, and next year in Seattle, January 1st at T-Mobile Park versus the Vegas Golden Knights, the two most recent expansion teams up against each other. That should be fun.
It will be fun. Yeah, I did tweet about it yesterday. I kind of heard about it a little bit at the media event, but I wanted to kind of source it a little better before I threw it up there. I didn't throw up the teams because sometimes with the Winter Classic, it takes a little longer because of schedule and such, and teams end up getting changed at the last minute. So this will be a really good matchup. Seattle is great. I've seen a baseball game at that ballpark. It's tremendous. It's one of the best in the league. So this should be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it.
Real quickly, I want to get caught up on World Juniors. We had quarterfinal action. Cutter Gauthier finally gets a goal, and he got two in that win over Germany. I think that, it was obviously just an absolute drubbing with the
Oh yeah, I
USA
mean it
over
was just
Germany.
bad.
So, I think you have to take those goals with a little bit of a grain of salt here, but still good to get him on the board. And I think it kind of built his confidence, and hopefully he can carry that into the next game.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. You want that to happen, but like right now he's not even the best guy on his line. He's the third best guy on his line. Now, in the from a perspective of top scorers, sure he's like 4 or 5, something like that. Nobody's near Bedard. We get that. And Cooley is on a different level than both these guys too, than Snuggerud and Gauthier. And it just if I had to make a decision today, I would not want him to play with the Flyers next year. And I'm probably going to stick with that decision, even if he has more than a point a game in his college season, because there's just parts of his game that just aren't ready yet. And if you want him to be at his best, then you're going to have to wait for him. Now, let's see, if he has an amazing game against Canada and, he goes out and has, he looks stronger in the second half, maybe I'll change my mind. But right now, that's kind of where I'm at with Cutter.
Yeah, Canada had a very exciting overtime win over Slovakia. Man, Slovakia
They
played
gave it to them.
Yeah, and this tournament is just a huge leap forward for them. So I'm really happy for that program.
Yeah, no, the program was great. Nemec, however you want to say it. There's been like 3 versions of it. That one goal was terrific, but he's been having a great tournament. Dale Dvorsky, I just like watching that guy. He's going to be a first rounder in the draft. Flyers fans should keep an eye on him because you never know where you're going to pick. He could end up being a top 10 pick. He was a big part of it too.
I would say not Brian Zanetti's best game for Switzerland, but still a pretty solid game. Czechia just steamrolled Switzerland as well in that quarterfinal. And I still think that Zanetti and Switzerland can hold their heads high. They had a really good tournament overall. They just ran into one of the top teams in this quarterfinal matchup. But I think that this is a good tournament for Zanetti. He'll go back to junior hockey, and I think this should help him in the new year.
It will. I mean, again, I look at it like they are a little bit on the upswing now, Switzerland. Not as much as like when Heischer was, doing his thing in the World Juniors, but it does feel like they're a little bit of an upswing, and I think he could, feel like he's a part of that because he was a big part of the team. So I do think he'll have a very good second half of the season.
Me too. And Sweden won over Finland. You can never miss those games. Always a good competition
Coin flip
there.
on that one.
Yeah. Good comeback from Sweden and a shorthanded goal to win it. It doesn't get any better than that in junior hockey.
Well, I'm sure some
All right.
Finns out there might argue with you.
Well, yeah, as a neutral observer, I guess. All right, that'll do it for today's show. We will be back again tomorrow. We are going to kind of look at that road trip overall and see what we can take from it moving forward for the Flyers. We're going to preview the semifinals of World Juniors, and we'll have your mailbag questions. So get them in. You can tweet us at Locked On Flyers, or you can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com. You can comment over on YouTube. We'll get your questions answered on the show. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, check out Locked On NHL Prospects. It's a daily show covering the next generation of hockey superstars leading up to the draft. It's available wherever you get your podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.